Tilius 258 here in Fractured Space with the Disruptor. It's of the USR tech tree. It is a support ship. It's a very nice ship. Not very much to research, not very much money that it costs actually. It's all about its utilities, through and through. Its defenses are actually pretty good, despite it saying 6, but it's actually pretty good. I'll tell you why in a minute about that too. Its offensive is hit or miss, but that's beside the point. You are a utility ship. You're all about the abilities. That does not necessarily make it the best of support ships, however. The Disruptor is a versatile ship. Extremely so. Because it's got, if I narrow it all down, I can think of maybe 3 main strategies that you can use with this, and they're all completely different, and some of them are better, some of them are very situational, but other than that, you can do pretty much anything you want with this. So, with that in mind, let's look at what you can do with this thing and what it gets. Alright, so for your main battery, you have the blaster. Blaster and all the other blasters, or that's the thing with the Disruptor. It doesn't get a different kind of damage model like the flagship, for example, between charges and flak. Now it has the same weapon, just a different firing pattern every time. So they all have 12,000 meter range, or 12k, and damage potential is different between. Alright, first, blaster. Blaster is a 3-shot burst of all of the 3 guns that are mounted on the thing all at once with a small reload of maybe 2 seconds. And you fire that repeatedly and do damage 3 at a time, much like that. It's decently accurate, decently fast, has very nice damage per minute. Not the highest, I would say, but definitely a very good starting weapon system if you just got the Disruptor, so there's no problem with it. Next is the Faster Blaster. Now the Faster Blaster, despite having a very cool name, is actually, I would say, the best weapon choice you can have on the Disruptor. The Faster Blaster only shoots 1 gun. However, it instead trades off firing all 3 at once for that fire rate by having such an enormously fast fire rate. It's ridiculously fast, which gives you a ridiculous damage per minute. I wasn't sure when I did this how long it took me, but I managed to get up to 10,000 damage in under a minute going up against a flagship. So, put that into perspective. 10,000 damage per minute at least. The next is the Ripple Blaster. Now the Ripple Blaster is kind of like a combination between the Faster Blaster and the Blaster. While the Faster Blaster has a ridiculous fire rate, the Blaster has a really slow fire rate compared to these, but it has a very nice alpha damage. The Ripple Blaster is a combination of both of that. It can do maybe, I think it's 250 if you land all shots per volley damage, and its fire rate is kind of a balance between the Faster Blaster and the Blaster, more towards the Blaster side. However, there is one problem with the Ripple Blaster, despite how decent it actually is, that the Blaster also shares this, by the way. The Ripple Blaster and the Blaster suffer from this problem where aiming and hitting every shot really counts, because the reload on this thing is actually pretty slow. So it might not seem like it, but it is. So when you fire the gun and you miss all, in this case for the Ripple Blaster, 6 shots, which is actually a really bad thing. With the Blaster, it's the same deal, and that makes it just, one, harder for you to hit your targets and do damage and able to be a support unit, for example. But with the Faster Blaster, you can just spam everything, and if you miss, you have an instant guiding shot to readjust your fire and then work off of that. Ripple Blaster and Blaster, you don't really have that. You really have to judge distance and predict where they're going to be before you have ever fired. Much like what you would do with a sniper, but in this case you're at such a short range, it really does matter because they can return fire. So that's the top part. Main batteries. As before, I would recommend the faster blaster, as I believe the highest damage per minute and is just much easier to use, I would say. The 12,000 range is actually quite a versatile range. It's not too far and it's not too close. It's a very nice range. Next. Okay, the next part is where you get into the utilities. This is where that utility, the 9 for the utility, comes in. You get disarm or ability shutdown, a choice between the two. Disarm, 6 seconds disarm. This is actually... Okay, I'm going to say this first. Ability shutdown and disarm are rather equal. One isn't necessarily better than the other. Disarm, you take out all their weapon systems, not their abilities, their weapon systems. So they can't fire for 6 seconds, which is equally good as it is bad. Because if you're close range, you need to get away, and they're firing at you, then you can disarm them, jump, run, what have you, and not have to worry about taking massive damage. Ability shutdown, however, will shut down anything they can use that could probably prevent that. So if it's a flagship, for example, it would disable its missiles, its boost ability. If it's an assassin, it would take out its cloak. If it was a hunter, it would take out its micro jump ability. So it would keep you technically near you, which is why the ability shutdown, despite how it keeps targets such as the hunter near you, it keeps the target near you, which is kind of counterintuitive, unless you're playing as a very, very hardcore support ship, in which case you're with a whole bunch of friends. So take your pick. Disarm is what I would actually recommend because it adds to the versatility of the ship, and the ability shutdown more or less just kind of makes it slightly more specialized, which means with the randomness of the games you're going to be thrown into, it doesn't necessarily mean it will be a good thing to be specialized. So keep that in mind. Detect stun. Detect stun is basically just fancy radar. It slows down ships by, I think, like 50%, I assume, and makes it so you can figure out if there are any ships near you. So in the case of assassins, your cloaks would be useless. However, it doesn't last very long, and it has a very long reload. I think it's about 45 seconds to a minute. So make sure you know what you're doing with that. Jump to ally. The jump to ally is another thing that adds to the versatility of the Disruptor. It's much like the blip ability that the hunter has, except it's targeted more so you actually have to click on an ally, jump to them. Since its range is 25,000, that's actually quite helpful, because if there's somebody really far ahead and they're about to get pinned down and stuff, you can jump to them and instantly start supporting them. So that's nice. It also helps you to get out, so if you're in a bad place and you have an ally who's far away from the action, you can use them as a target to jump away. So just a little bit of an extra ability to control your engagement. The repair drones. The repair drones are actually the best thing about the Disruptor. Straight out. They are what makes this ship so good. I actually hate to use that word, but yes, good. On one hand, they can repair any ship that you target. You can repair yours, it can repair your friends. That lasts for 45 seconds, so that's actually quite a significant amount of time. However, it does have a minute reload, so for a very long time you won't be able to support, but in the time that you can do a lot of help, a lot of good. Its range is also really good, so, but, however, these are repair drones. They have to move from one place to the other, and they're not exactly very fast, so you don't really want to be able to use its max range at all. Because by the time it actually gets to its max range, you'll have maybe like 10 seconds left on their timer, and you'll heal pretty much nothing of your allies, and they'll be kind of going, "Were you sure about that?" Also, I know somebody's going to point this out. Yes, I know it says detones. It's a typo. Shush. Alright. Okay, now this isn't usually something that's important, but the engine. The engine can get you to go 600 meters per second. This is a fast ship. It's actually quite fast. And it's very important for this ship. Because it's so mobile, you can, one, pick your engagements, and two, you can be a kiting ship. Which means you can stay on the very edge of the range of certain ships, and being slightly faster than them, keep your distance properly, so you can use your blasters, use your disarm, or ability shutdown, use your drones to keep you healthy for their abilities, and just continue peppering them with light fire. So, and I have tested this, in the case of a flagship, using flak for example, if you keep them at the almost edge of your blaster range, and move around them, they can't get to you. The only thing you have to worry about are their missiles, which, with your repair drones, because they can repair yourself, you are pretty much immune. Plus, with the disarm ability, if they get too close, and you need to get away a little bit, you can disarm them, denying them any damage whatsoever, move out of range, and then start fighting. And that's a very important thing, because you can only do this with such a fast ship. It also means, but that's only, of course, for like really slow, close-range ships. So maybe, like, I know it works for the flagship. I'm not sure if it works for anything else, but I know the flagship it works, because you find lone flagships more often than a lone sniper, for example. So that's what you can get for the Disruptor, and it's that versatility for like the kiting strategy I was going about, that you can use the speed. That's just one of the things you can do, and that's a very picky, choosy kind of setup. You can either go solo and start kiting some lone flagships, doing massive amounts of damage while they can't do anything to you. And if you get caught in a hard place, you can get away really fast, so that's always nice. Another way you can play is as a pure support ship, where you're just sticking around with friends, you're using your drones to keep them healthy, you're avoiding fire yourself, and since you can pick and choose engagements with your little jump ability, it means that you can, if your little group is dying and somebody just spawned in at the other side, you can jump back and let them explode, which isn't necessarily the nicest thing, but on the other hand, you have realized that you're more helpful alive than you are dead, so let your teammates that just will not survive, cannot get out of it, have no hope whatsoever, leave them to die. That sounds harsh, but that's what you should be doing. So that's kiting, that's basic support, and the third one is kind of the mixture of both. Kiting you can be solo, but it also means, which means you don't have to be with a group, but it also means that you can support your group if they are there. So you can combine support and be a kiting ship. However, the third one is kind of a harassment strategy, really. You would use the thing to distract them and draw fire, keep yourself healthy, and allow your teammates to do it. It's kind of like a sacrificial strategy. And there's a reason why I say it's tactical. On the one hand, you're sacrificing your ship. On the other hand, you're harassing the enemy, and then also you're distracting them from the main point, which is why the third one is a suicide scout tactic. Basically what you do, and I have not tried this, I've never been in the circumstances required to do it, and I'll explain what those are in a second. Basically what you do, you spawn in, you jump to one side, you bullet to the other side of the map, you cap their base. Any damage you're taking, you disarm them, you use your drones to keep you healthy, and eventually you just cap, and then you go to their home, if you're lucky enough. And that completely disorganized the enemy team. They instantly have no idea what's going on, they have to return, your team can advance, and 9 times out of 10, you usually win the battle if it works. If it works, mind you. However, it requires some very special circumstances for it to work. On the first, you have to do it instantly, as soon as the match starts. Second, you have to be really lucky, because depending on the side of the map that the enemy team has gone, if you're in the same one, and there's more than one ship, even possibly, depending on what the second one is, 2 ships, if there's more than that, you will die. They will break your tank, despite what your healing drones can do, and you just wasted your ship. You have done nothing, and it's likely the enemy team really hasn't been frazzled at all. Frazzled. So, you got a kiting ship, you have a basic support ship, and you have a suicide scout ship. And it makes it very versatile. That's why I'm saying it's a very versatile ship. There's all these strategies that you can do, fitting every playstyle possible that is applicable to the ship. And depending on how you load it out, you don't even have to specialize in anything, yet be specialized in 3 other things. So, I guess if I were to call this ship anything, I would say it's an underappreciated ship, because I don't see much of them. And it's also probably the most versatile ship I have met, because you can do so much with it. So, that's the Disruptor in a nutshell. Mr. Versatile, as I will call him, is going to go into a battle, and you will get to see what it can do. Alright, so before I start the gameplay, I'm going to say this now. When I first jumped into this game, after about like 5 other ones, my ping was really high and I started glitching out a whole lot in this, so I thought, oh, it won't be a good video, so I stopped recording. It eventually then started smoothing out wonderfully and I could actually play, so I started kind of after I died the first time when I had time to realize that, and etc, etc. So, on screen I have a list out of the ships that are in the game at the moment, and the current blah, 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 I forget the word. Anyway, onwards. Alright, so I have just died, I just got back in, so I'm jumping back to B, because that's where I was the first time, and I wanted to help the guy I was there the first time. So, I've got my faster blaster, I've got my disable. No, not disable, disarm, so I'm first just trying to get into the battle as fast as possible. So, yeah. There's that fire rate right there. Also, these are some really fast ships, so it's actually really hard to hit these. That, and I'm just a terrible shot with this thing, so keep that in mind. So, it's me and this guy named Tallahassee in the Brawler, and we're kind of just engaging this, I believe it's the Enforcer and another Disruptor. Here I was just trying to get close enough so I could actually do some damage without having to worry about aiming so much, but even at close range it's still hard to hit these things because they're moving so fast, much like you, so keep that in mind. So at this point, I had realized that he needed some help, so I targeted him and I threw him my drone so he would start getting healed, and I kept him alive. So there's that support rule, because I'm not being attacked, so as a support vehicle, I should be supporting my friends. So I used my detect blow, because these guys are moving fast, so I have to be using this constantly throughout this match, and it just slows them down, so I'm actually able to do some real fire. Eventually the, what's it called? Disruptor was destroyed, and it was all just the Enforcer now, so, or Equalizer. Equalizer. Right, that's the word. So I ran into a rock. Yeah. Happens a lot in this side of the map. Used detect slow again, so he slows down. He uses that thing, of course, so I can't even hit him. So it's at this point where it's kind of just me and him, really. So I'm trying to maneuver to first make a little bit of extra distance so I can keep myself alive and take less damage. It also make it harder for him to hit me, but at the same time it kind of wasn't working very well. I have my drones out on me, so I'm able to tank all of his damage plus more, so that was nice. And eventually the other Disruptor respawned and came back. He's using the... From that reload, he's using the Ripper. The Ripper Blaster. Ripper. So I'm still right now just kind of dogfighting and kiting, trying to keep my distance. And it was about this time where I did. Where I asked for help in the chat, because I was thinking, no way I can kill these guys alone. It's 2 versus 1. So I need some help. So I finally start getting some really good damage on the Disruptor, so that's nice. But I think it was about, this point where he started throwing out his drones. And for some reason I thought, oh, my point defense will kill his drones, but the range on point defense is so little, I don't even know what I was thinking at the time. And eventually I did get a friend. It was another brawler. I believe, let's see. Sid. Sid was his name. So he caught the Disruptor and he got him towards him, so it was easy to start. I was able to hit him, do some damage, and he was able to kill him, I believe. Yeah. So he's down. So now it's 2 versus 1, so the things are all very amiable. I catch on fire, plasma. I have no idea how. I'm assuming I caught on fire due to the equalizer. I just use my drones to heal myself, so it doesn't really matter in the long run, so that's nice. Again, I start trying to lay down some fire on him. Now, you see how I have to lead the shot due to the distance he's at, but he is moving a lot, so a lot of these shots are missing. The ones that do hit, I'm instantly trying to use as like a little counter, and I even get the kill for that, which is nice. So I recall my drones. I start going down so we can start getting a few more points, because we're in the lead when it comes to upgrades and stuff, but still, a little more can never hurt. So I'm waiting for my drones at this point to reinvigorate. What? No. Refresh. Reload. That's the word. Reload. And I throw them instantly onto my friends. Again, that support role where you're able to help your friends and help keep them alive. And as soon as he was healed, I pretty much just recalled my drones, and we eventually just started rushing the cap, actually. Yeah, at this point, two of the enemy ships actually, sorry, appeared in the system, and unfortunately they had gas, so we didn't want to engage them exactly. Plus, they were pretty distracted with their own thing at the time. So they were just kind of ignoring us completely and just going to cap points and stuff. So since they were heading off in the opposite direction, we just decided to start capping this point so we could start heading towards their base. Was it a good idea at the time? Looking back on it, probably not so much. But I have to admit, there was one thing that we did do well, which I think was a good thing. We did mess with their team a little bit. A little bit. Not very much, but a little bit. So, the guy in the brawler headed towards the small station, towards the edge of the main centers. I headed straight for their cap, so I could start getting it captured and eventually just make it easier for in case we get another thing. Now, I launched my drones here, inside the cap, the base cap of the enemy, so I was thinking that maybe my drones would be able to heal me, but somehow I had them target my ally, so I didn't get healed, and as fast as I possibly could, I tried to escape, but I eventually just blew up. You get a pretty explosion out of it, so that's always nice. Okay, quick little recap on the respawn. While me and my little brawler friend were going out and trying to cap their base, they completely ignored their base for a very long time and actually went and started capping our base. They actually did it more successfully because unlike how me and my brawler friend both went off and did our own thing at that point, they both aimed for our base. So, yeah. So I jumped to B, got in, and instantly started trying to back up the brawler there, hoping to further mess with the enemy. So I started laying down fire on this frigate, who's at close range, and then he, of course, deploys his invulnerability shield, and I can't do a thing, which is always lovely. And so, eventually I see he's kind of too far away, so I start using the drones on him first, but eventually he just gets destroyed, and I just recall them to defend me. And of course I'm somehow plasmaed yet again. Not sure how. So the drones are back on me, and now it's a lot on me. So I'm thinking, okay, use my drones, use my speed, get away from them, and get back home. Which I do, and I do survive. As much as I hate jumping... No, that's not true. There's a difference between strategic defense, and there's a difference between panicking and thinking, oh, it's an instant button, and I will survive if I try. And that doesn't work. People like to think it works, but it doesn't work. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about how a person in, say, a flagship is being attacked by like 2 people. He has some support in the back, but they're not actually doing very much damage, because maybe say they're just a bunch of brawlers. And they start jumping away, and that just increases the damage. And just... And usually I'm in a sniper when I'm doing this, so I'm watching from a distance. I'm just like, oh my god, what are you doing? Don't do that. But strategically, like what I was doing, where I was trying to get as far away as possible in order to survive, that I find is acceptable, because it means, one, you're not panicking, and two, you're not, what's the word? And two, it doesn't mean you're like kind of saying, I give up, because I guess what I'm kind of annoyed at is how people kind of just, instead of like fighting, I mean, if you know you're going to die, don't push the button and just make it, don't make yourself die faster. I mean, do more damage, make it easier for the rest of your team. Stuff like that. Okay, back to the actual game. Sorry about that. Let's see what happened. We got the gas. We're about to be capped again, so I went back to my base at this moment, and we killed a few things. What else? That's about it. Gas, blah blah blah. Oh, right. When you get gas power, you also get an increase to your fire rate. So the fire rate on the Disruptor increases by such a ridiculous amount that you are pretty much a machine gun, as you can see right here, again, because it was happening in that little skirmish over there. So now we're being capped again, so I'm trying to get back into the base as fast as possible. I failed miserably at trying to get any damage on that Disruptor. And now on this other equalizer. He eventually just gets away from me, so I kind of just abandon that little pursuit and go for closer things. And about this time, gas-powered ends, so my amazing fire rate just disappears. So, it's about this point where we actually got some of our allies in their base. And since they're all dying, they can't respawn quickly enough, so while they were all dead, two of ours got to their base and started capping. And before that, I tried to get this guy up in front of me, Mr. Gravy, and tried to kill him with my Disruptor, so again, just reflecting on that versatility of the Disruptor. He was on low health, so I was like, ooh, easy kill. So I started laying down fire, hoping to get him, and then all of a sudden he uses that boost thing, and I can't hit him anymore. And that's when our game ends. I feel robbed! I'm kidding. As to the results of the battle, I didn't do very many killing. I did quite a few assists, and died twice, but other than that, we all did I did a decent job. I supported when I needed to support. When I was engaging, I tried to kite and stay away from everybody. And that's what you should be doing in the Disruptor. So that is the Disruptor, one of the most versatile ships in my opinion, but also quite underappreciated because I don't really ever see very many of them. Is definitely one of my fun ships to play in. Not one of my favorites, I have to admit, but still a really good ship. It fits almost every playstyle I can think of, except maybe the ultimate tank, which is like in something, the destroyer or the flagship. It's not one of those, but other than that, it fits almost every playstyle. It's a great ship. I would highly recommend it. And yeah. Thank you for watching. My name is Matilius258, and I hope to shoot you someday soon.